So today's call really comes off the heels of a great conversation that the team and I were having about what's more important, cash flow or profitability. And I think they're both the most important. I don't think you can really argue with the importance of either one of them. For me, I always start with the net operating income in mind. If I come into a business and we start working with a client and they know like they're running into cash flow issues, but they really don't understand what the root cause of that is. In a lot of cases, it comes back to poor profitability because they're spending too much to deliver or they are underpricing themselves. They don't have good processes or management around their costs. They may have great profitability on paper, but if they're a business like a construction company that does the work now but doesn't get paid for it until 30, 60 days later, but you don't have a good process for collections in place, you can look profitable all day long. But if you aren't following up with people to make sure they're paying you, some people, yeah, they just straight up abuse you and use you and don't ever intend to pay you. But a lot of people just forget about the day to day. And if they don't have good processes around their money, then you're going to foot the bill for their lack of proactiveness, right? And so, uh, that could be a problem. And then you can also look like you have great cash flow, but very poor profitability. And so it's understanding where's this money coming from in the first place, and what is the time frame of like how long is this really going to last. And so in being proactive and making sure that we don't run into cash flow issues, then we want to make sure that we are priced for profitability, that we're managing our costs, that we understand where our money is coming and where it's going, and then being proactive to understanding what level of profitability do we need to hit to achieve our goals and just even stay relevant. So there's a lot of considerations in there, but I always start again with the net operating income, the profit in mind, because I want to understand that about a business, because that is the most important. Because if you don't have profit in your business, then you're not going to have a business, because you can have cash flow from loans, you can have cash flow from contributions that you make, and that looks good on the surface, but that's not sustainable. A sustainable business has to be profitable. And so this is also really important when it comes to tax planning, because when you're paying taxes, you're paying it on the net profit of your business, not your net cash flow. And so if you have $100,000 in profit, but maybe your cash flow for the year was $50,000, you're paying taxes on that $100,000 in net profit that comes from your business. And say the difference might be debt service in there, or maybe you made a bunch of distributions and didn't realize it, or maybe you're using your business improperly as a personal cash cow and you're spending a lot of stuff through your business for personal needs, and it's actually not deductible in your business. And so that can be some of the stuff that you run into, and we don't want that, right? So this is why, again, I go back into what is our net operating income and then looking at cash flow, but harmonizing and understanding what cycle are you at in your business. Are you in a mature phase? Are you in a building phase? Are you in a growth phase? Like, what does that look like to be able to determine what we focus on? So with that, I want to shift the topic to some 2025 wealth building tax strategies that I want to make you aware of. And I'm not going to go super deep on any of these because everything really depends on your situation at the end of the day. And this is why it's so important to understand what's available for you, but then being able to have somebody that has eyeballs on your business to go in deep with you on what matters to you. And these are things that I may recommend some of these strategies for all people, and I may recommend some of them for all people. And it depends on who you are, what your goals are, whether I would recommend that or not. And I have a very long-term focus and point of view. So when we're looking at tax planning, it is really understanding how is this not only going to benefit to you today, but ultimately in the long run. Is this meant to help you build wealth, cash flow? Is this for your family? What is the purpose around this? And so I'm very passionate about helping people to build wealth with their tax strategy, not minimize the profitability of their company to pay the least amount in taxes. Because one is going to serve you for the long term, the other is going to serve you for the short term potentially. But you're going to come into a situation where if you would have focused on just having that growth mindset truly and leveraging the opportunities you had to you and focusing, you're going to wake up every single day and take actions in your business that are going to move the needle. What you choose to focus on is what you choose, right? And so we want you to spend that energy that you would have already spent on things that are going to give you back your freedom, and building out a profitable business that allows you to hire a team where they can really do what they're great at so that you can focus on what you love while you start to take that cash flow and invest that in things maybe like real estate or buying other businesses up. I love this. We're going into, I can't remember what they call it. I think they call it like the silver era of all of these baby boomers selling their businesses off. So that's something to consider where, a lot of people have built businesses that aren't actually worth what they thought they were worth, which is very unfortunate. But this is also why, we have a lot of clients that are about my age. And I don't care if you're 35, 45, or 55, you still have an opportunity to take advantage of a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today because it's not too late. And especially with the advances in modern technology, right? Anybody watch Talladega Nights, right? But especially with advances in healthcare and things of that nature, and the awareness that we have around things that are actually good for us and things that aren't. And I'm not going to go down that wormhole right now, but we're living longer than ever. And I think that's just going to continue to improve. And so it's never too late. But being aware of these things, I think, is going to be really helpful. So I want to share a few things today just to be on top of. And then if you have questions, then you can reach out. Ultimately, we are just here to make sure that your tax planning is customized to you. And so I want to preface this with, this is not, there's no investing advice in here. This is merely information for you to decide what to do with. And so overall, again, our core philosophy, the lens of everything we look at, is this going to help me build wealth? Because when I think about wealth, I think about freedom. And you got to think about, what does that freedom mean to you? Does it mean that you can take off at 12:30 to go and pick up your grandkids? Or if you're not old enough for grandkids yet, not expecting that right now, does that mean that you can go take a power nap every day? Because that is what my extraordinary life looks like. So when I think about wealth, it's really just being able to do the things I want when I want them. And if that is having a business but not working in it, then that's wealth for you. If that is having a business and you are the face of it and you're leading an entire movement for the next 30 years, then that is absolutely wealth to you. But you want to be able to put yourself in a position where you get to do those things, not where you have to. And I think that's the difference of wealth for me. So one of the first things I want to talk about is Roth IRA contributions. So when it comes to retirement contributions, I will say I am not a huge proponent for retirement accounts, but the Roth I am a huge fan for, and self-directed retirement accounts I'm a big fan of. So just to go into Roth accounts allow you to put money into that retirement account today that is going to grow tax-free. So you do not get a tax deduction for it right now, but you're going to put that money in there after tax dollars, and then that money is going to grow. When you go to take that money out of that retirement account, when you get to retirement age, you're not going to pay any taxes on that income whatsoever. So the goal is that the sooner you put it in there, the more it's going to grow, because it's going to have more time to compound, right? And so it's going to be worth exponentially more than what you put in there. So you're going to be better off, because one of the things that people don't realize is that if you don't own a business, when you get into retirement age and your only source of income might be Social Security and some retirement, which if you're building a really profitable business, you're not even going to be I wouldn't even bank on Social Security. I don't care if you have a business or not. I just wouldn't even bank on it with the climate that we're in. But when you get into retirement age, if you don't have businesses, if you don't have investments and things of that nature, you actually are going to usually end up paying more in taxes compared to your income. So I love a Roth IRA for that. If you don't, if you know that I want to be able to sell my business one of these days and I just want to live off of my savings at some point in time, I love a Roth IRA. Now, if you have a financial planner and you're already talking with them about this stuff, then being able to actually forecast what that will look like for you with those contributions is something that would provide you a lot of clarity and be very helpful. So I definitely recommend a good fee-based financial planner. I know some folks that I would encourage you to reach out to if you want some guidance on that. But otherwise, just as far as a tax strategy perspective is concerned, a Roth is a really good option, and you can actually start to do this now. And so if you, the maximum for 2025 is $7,000. If you're over age 50, you can contribute up to $8,000. Now, the caveat to this is that your modified adjusted gross income, which is something that you can find on your tax return, has to be under $236,000. And there can be some other limitations to this, but that's the big one. So your income has to be under that. If it's over that, you actually are not able to contribute to that Roth. However, that does not completely exclude you. There is this thing that a lot of people have heard of, but they don't really understand, is a backdoor Roth or a mega backdoor Roth. And so what that allows you to do is you'll want to understand also what's your situation, but you may be able to contribute to a traditional IRA, and then because you would, if your income is over that $236,000, right, you can contribute to a traditional like a 401k, and then you can just roll that over in the same year to that Roth. And so that would be what they call the backdoor Roth. Now, the mega backdoor Roth is like, say you have a solo 401k, if you don't have any team members and you're just a solo business owner, you could actually have a solo 401k and contribute up to the max in that, and then roll that over. And I say specifically in the same year because you can roll over funds from a traditional IRA or 401k into a Roth at any point in time. The important thing to be aware of is that you're likely to incur taxes when you do that rollover. If you contributed that money in 2024 perhaps, and then you roll it over in 2025, and that money was deducted on your taxes, or you or that money made money in there, then you're going to trigger some tax expense on there. Now, that doesn't mean not to do it, just means to be aware of it, because especially if you believe that your taxes will be higher in the future than they are today, it may make sense for you to go ahead and do that. And this is why it's really important to, in working with your financial planner, your tax strategist, right, i.e. us, that you are aware of, if these things are triggered, what is the impact it will have. Because especially if you have an opportunity where maybe your tax rate, even after you pay tax on this rollover, is only 5 or 10% of your income, but because you maybe got a lot of depreciation or something like that for this year, but you think in the future it's going to be 20 or 30%, then pay the tax on that now. Go ahead and roll it over, and then let the rest of that money grow tax free. So those are one of those things where if you don't want to wait till the end of the year and put a big chunk of change in here and then having to worry about doing all that rollover, you can start making weekly or monthly. Every custodian I have seen, so like Charles Schwab or anything like that, or anybody that may do like self-directed IRAs, even a lot of times they'll allow you to set up weekly or monthly contributions to those accounts, so it just automatically goes over there. Now, one of the things to really understand about this, if you like to play around with investments yourself, and you like to take that risk, then just because you put money into these investment accounts, these 401ks, these are really just holding accounts for your retirement, right? So when you put them into the Roth, when you put them into the 401k or the IRA, you've got to then invest that money. That account is not an investment account. It's really a holding account. You got to put that money at work. So when you have these transfers working for you and they're going into these accounts, say you have $500 a week going into your IRA, once it goes in there, you need to make sure that it's getting invested. So a lot of times these accounts will earn interest on cash if there's cash sitting in there, but you want it doing more than that, because likely the interest that you're getting on the cash just sitting in there isn't as much as you can make on those investments, which it depends on. You want to understand what that investment is, the performance of it. And this stuff is actually very simple, but if you don't understand these things, I love to help people with these things, because it's not hard. You just need to have somebody explain it to you in a very simple way. And so if we know that on average a investment has a track record of 7%, but we're only going to earn 2% on our cash sitting in there, I want my money in that investment. Now, there's caveats to this where you got to know how to read the language of investment returns. Nothing is promised. A lot of times people will tell you that the average return on this investment over 10 years is 9%. But what they fail to include in there a lot of times is the fees for managing that investment, which makes your returns a lot lower. So that's getting into the weeds a little bit on those investments and those tax strategies. But ultimately, there's really simple ways to do this. If you ever worked for somebody else and you had a retirement account before you started your business, then they probably walked you through how to set some of those investments up in there. And so a lot of times what they'll have is they'll have what they call target date funds. And so you can have these in a Roth, you can have these in an IRA. And so if you think that you're going to retire in 40 years or 30 years or 20 years, then they'll have target date funds for that period of time that are supposed to, essentially retire or pay out at that given period of time. And what will be different about these target date funds is the investment mix. It may have ETFs, it may have stocks, bonds, options, puts. It really just depends. And I got a lot of this understanding and this awareness myself when I worked the company that I worked for before I started Progress to Profits was an insurance company. And if you don't know, insurance companies actually have to hold a lot of investments that are they can have some that are more risk averse and more those that are risk tolerant. So they may have higher returns, but more risk. And insurance companies have to hold certain types of investments. They can only hold so many stocks and bonds, and then within maybe stocks in and of itself, they can only hold so many of certain classes of stock. And so if we go into common stock, preferred stock, so if you've heard of any of those things, investment companies have to be very well versed on investments. It is rigorous and cutthroat on the reporting around those things, and you have to monitor those investments to make sure they're performing well. There's concentration risk. So there's a lot of stuff that I learned about working for that insurance company, because that is how they make sure to keep ahead of the policies that their insured peoples have, so that as people, die, if it's like a life insurance company, which is what this was, as people die or they cash out their policies, you've got to be able to have reserves or assets or investments that are going to be able to cover these premiums coming out. So that's where I learned a lot of this information, and just being able to understand investing a lot more in depth. So it was really helpful. So if you know that you want to be able to contribute to a retirement account, you don't want to deal with real estate, or you just really don't know about anything else and you feel good about that, make sure first and foremost, this aligns with what your long-term goals are for your wealth. And then you can make those contributions, but start doing that now, because it's going to ease up your cash flow. And then it's just going to allow you to pivot and plan a lot more effectively as you go throughout the year. And so those are really simple things to get set up. If you have questions around those things, just let us know. The next thing that I have on here is, and I've got a lot of information about contribution limits for like simple IRAs or SEP IRAs if you're a solo practitioner, but most of our clients are not going to qualify for any kind of like SEP or solo 401ks, because you're going to have a team and you don't really want to do that. So you'll probably have like a simple IRA or some kind of other maybe defined benefit plans in place. And so it really just pertains to your circumstances as an owner, because we want you to grow a business where you're going to have a team that is going to help you to thrive. So the next thing to take into consideration is health savings accounts. So this is really, a lot of people already know about this, but some things have changed compared to 2024. And so some of the key changes for 2025 is that health savings accounts contributions, you can actually contribute up to, if you are only on, well, let me back up a little bit, because there's some requirements to be able to contribute to health savings accounts. So you have to be on a high deductible health plan, an HDHP. And so what is considered high deductible? A high deductible means that the minimum deductible on your insurance plan is $1,650 for if it's self-only coverage. If it's family coverage, then $3,300 is the minimum deductible. So if it's $1,650 for self, $3,300 for family or higher, then you may qualify for a health savings account. Now, I say may because you have to have a qualified health insurance plan, which is usually the more expensive ones you're going to get on an exchange, you're going to get through your company. What does not count for a health savings account is if you use the health share type insurance, like Christian Health Ministries or Zion Health. Those are types of health insurance that they have a much lower cost, but they're not eligible to be able to have a health savings account with them. So it's important to understand if you have an eligible qualified health insurance plan. They usually share that information with you up front, but if you're not sure, this is something that you can get with your healthcare provider to determine if you're eligible to get a health savings account. Now, there's also a requirement that your out-of-pocket maximum, if it's a self-only plan, is $8,300 for the year. And if it's a family plan, then it's $16,600. So family is like you and your spouse, or you, your spouse, and your kids, or you and your kids only. And so Actually, let me back up a little bit on that, because for married couples, the family limit is 8550 unless you both have self-only coverage. So that's one of the caveats to that. So, if that is the case, if you have self-only coverage to your health savings account, you can contribute up to $4,300 this year. If you're 55 years of age or older, then you can contribute an extra $1,000 to total 5,300. Now, why I love this is because health savings accounts have what we call triple tax benefits. And so you can deduct the contributions to your health savings account on your taxes. You can actually invest your health savings account funds. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people will just set them up in a health savings account, just like a regular bank account, and they're not really earning any interest income or anything on that. But there's actually companies like Fidelity that allow you to set up investment health savings accounts. So if you are healthy and you don't anticipate really needing that money on the fly and you're willing to take that risk, you can invest that money. And then when you go to use it for medical expenses, especially as you get older, and you want to be able to use those, maybe you know that in a few years you may need a surgery, or you just want to be proactive, then that money is going to grow tax free. You can take it out of there and use it for those qualified health expenses and not pay any taxes on the growth of that money. And so another little bonus that a lot of people don't know about when it comes to health savings accounts is that after age 65, you can actually use those funds that you saved up for non-medical expenses. Now, you will be taxed, that will be taxed as income on you. So it's not like you never get that money out of there. If you take money out of a health savings account and you don't use it for qualified health expenses, you will be penalized on that, in addition to paying the tax on that income. But after age 65, you can actually take that money out, not be taxed, or not get the penalty on it. You will be taxed on the income, because again, you deduct that on your taxes years before that. Now you're going to pretty much add it back into income when you take it out of there. But I love that benefit of that. And so you've grown this investment income. It's kind of like when we talked about that Roth IRA, think about it in that sense as well. But another great way for you to be able to maybe circumvent that, maybe you are under the income threshold and you can contribute to that Roth IRA. And now we really want to max out this HSA, which I recommend this for anybody that is healthy and has the right health insurance plan. We definitely want to leverage that. If you have a family insurance plan, your contribution limits, if you're under age 55, is 88,550. If you are over age 55, then you have that $1,000 catch-up contribution, which would bring your total contribution for the year of 9,550. So again, I love that benefit. I mean, that right there, if your tax rate is, if you're over 50 years old and your tax rate is 20%, and you're able to contribute that full 9,550, that just in federal income taxes alone, say your income tax rate at the federal level is 20%, that's going to save you $1,910 on your income taxes just from the federal side of things. And that's if your tax rate is 20%. If it's higher than that, you're going to save more in taxes. Now, this is one of those things where you're not spending money here just to save money in taxes. This is an investment for your future, and kind of think about like your emergency fund, right? So being aware of that, really great investment vehicle. And then, if you need help on being able to set up an HSA, those are actually very simple to do. Again, I like Fidelity. There's a lot of different investment health savings accounts out there, but I would recommend to get with your health insurance provider, because a lot of times they already have a partnership with a bank that will help you to do that. Now, when it comes to HSA contributions, if you don't have that high deductible health plan for the entire year, then you can't make that full amount of that contribution to the HSA. So it's going to be prorated based on when you had that high deductible health plan. So if you get a health insurance plan July 1 through the end of 2025, then you're only going to be able to make those contributions for half of that threshold, right? And so just being aware of that going forward. And then let's see, I have some other notes on here. When it comes to HSA, something else to be aware of as well is that you will be able to, as long as the account is open by the end of the year, you can actually contribute to your HSA by April 15th or the tax filing deadline of the next year. So for 2025, say we're not really sure, you run out of time or you forgot or whatever the case may be, this is one of those circumstances. There are some retirement accounts where you can do this as well. There are some circumstances where as long as the account is open prior to the end of the year, you have until April 15th of 2026 that you can make that full contribution if you're eligible. And so just being aware of that. And then, so going into some next things. So talking about business profitability, why we encourage you to build a very profitable business and do it to where you don't have to be the person that's relied on for everything, is because we want you to be able to build wealth outside of that business. Right now, your business can actually be your retirement plan. If you set your business up right and you grow it properly and you are fully able to remove yourself from the day-to-day operations, and you can build an enterprise that is worth selling one of these days, you could build that business, sell it, that becomes your retirement account. If you know that you're going to sell your business, and this is why we build businesses like we're going to sell them, because sellable businesses are profitable businesses. If you know that ahead of time, you can actually structure your business so that when you sell it, you may be eligible to pay no income taxes on the gain of that sale whatsoever. I say federally, state that may not apply, but on a federal base, there's actually a way that you can set your organization up to where you will not have to pay any capital gains tax on the sale of that business if you structure it properly. So this is why I say, like, this can be a really great, your business is one of your best investment vehicles for so many reasons. And then if, say you do sell your business and you take that money and you have so much wisdom and knowledge at that point, you can go choose to invest it again if you wanted to, or put it somewhere where it's going to make you some more money, right? That's what we want to do with that. Or if you just want to spend it all and be able to do that, then I guess you could do that. But this is why, thinking outside of the traditional box of retirement accounts and things of that nature, look at your business as your retirement account. And you can build that business actually where if you start running that and it's that well-oiled machine and you really commit to doing that and be extremely focused to be able to do that, your business can cash flow you and you don't ever have to step foot in it. And there you go. There's your retirement fund. And then just setting your legacy up properly where, whenever something happens to you, because it will, you're going to die at some point. And, have your business set up to where it's in a trust, or it's going to be in such a way where when you pass away, who's this going to be handed off to, or does this trigger some kind of sale, or like, what is that going to look like, so that you can get the cash flow from that business for the remainder of your life. And when something happens to you, it's either going to be passed on or it's going to be sold. What does that look like? So being critical about that now, understanding what you want your lifestyle to look like when you get old enough where you may not be physically able to work, or you don't want to have to work, or whatever that looks like for you. Understanding, what do I need my income to be, and then reverse engineering, okay, this is where I need to get my business so that I can make that kind of money without having to step my foot in here, and be able to live off of that cash flow from that business, right? Real estate is another one of those that is a great opportunity for a lot of people. And if you don't want to actually get into real estate or owning real estate, then there are real estate investment trusts where you can still get the benefits of owning real estate, but you are not, it's more passive income. You are not directly tied to the management of those properties, but you can still get cash flow from those. You can still get the depreciation benefits from those opportunities. So something else to think about. One of the things I mentioned at the beginning of this as well is a self-directed IRA or 401k. And so what I like about these is that if you go with a traditional custodian, a lot of people know who the Charles Schwab, the Edward Jones, the Baird, Fidelity, companies like that. There's only certain investments they will allow you to have in there. What I like about self-directed IRAs or 401ks is that you can put real estate in here. You can have partnership interest in here. So it's a retirement account, but the ability to put different kinds of investments, you have more freedom with that. You can put precious metals in here to grow and appreciate. And so you got to work with a custodian that knows the rules and regulations around these, but there's a lot of great tax benefits, but you want to know as it pertains to you, what's going to make the most sense. And so real estate is one of those things where, if you don't want to personally own real estate, but you want to put it in your retirement account because this is maybe going to be a long-term hold for you, and you know that, and you're really working on building up your real estate portfolio, it may make sense for you to put that into a self-directed IRA. I love like precious metals. My husband's a huge fan of those. And so silver and gold, love those. You can put those in a self-directed IRA if you don't want to own those outright. Really great opportunities to build wealth for retirement and in a tax advantaged way. That are not just traditional stocks, bonds, ETFs, things of that nature that you're going to find on the market. I think it's a good mix to have a little bit of everything. If you want this, I like diversification, but we're going to talk about when does it make sense to diversify here in a moment. Excuse me. So, having silent partnerships, again, this is another thing where you get really great at business, which I would hope is going to be the case. If you're in this for the long term, you can actually take your money and invest it in a partnership. And so, you can this is just like you would invest money into the stock market and you hope that that investment is going to grow and then you're going to sell it for more than the money that you put in to it at some point in time. Then you can do the same thing with other businesses. You can invest in S corporations, C corporations that are private C corporations, partnerships, things of that nature. There's all kinds of ways to invest your money out there. There's a long list on here. I'm not going to go through all of these actually today, but I love businesses for that reason. A lot of it is just making sure you have the structure set up right based on what your goals are. And so being aware of that, again, knowing what your vision is and what we want that to look like, a lot of these things can be very simple. And you're going to get more acclimated and you're going to feel better about some of these things that are not mainstream the more you get into building your business. So when it comes to non-qualified investment accounts, this is another thing to consider is that if you want to be able to contribute to, you have IRAs and Roth IRAs and 401ks, all that stuff. When you're investing in these, you tie that money up. If you want to take that money back out of there, there are a few circumstances where you can take money out of those retirement accounts and you will not be penalized on it. But there's only like three or maybe five reasons that you can, if you're buying like your first home that you've ever bought, certain medical needs like emergency medical costs, investing in your education in some circumstances, depends on what it is. It has to be qualified education expenses. You may be able to take money out of there, but if you're somebody that doesn't want to put $60,000 a year into a solo 401k and then you can't touch that without getting penalized for the money that you made, that's kind of my mindset on it. You can still invest in the same things that your retirement accounts are investing in, but it's actually going to you're going to still be able to have that access to it. So they call those non-qualified investment accounts. And so the thing about these is that you fund these again with after-tax dollars. There's no contribution limits. You can play around with these. People, you hear about playing around with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, S&P 500 stocks, things of that nature. You can do all of those things if you want to in there, especially if you're good at this and you're willing to take that risk. You can put money in there. The only difference is that you are not going to be penalized if you want to sell off some of the stuff that you invested in and you want to get that money back because you found a better use for that money or you need it for some reason. You have that flexibility. Now, some cons for that is that if you do take that money out of there, if you keep it long-term, which is long-term is considered a year or more, then you can be taxed capital gains or dividends, taxed on those capital gains or dividends. Now, I say can because it depends on what your ordinary income is to determine on if you're going to get taxed on those capital gains. Now, if your business is making a lot of money, you're most likely not going to fall into the bracket where you pay no capital gains tax on that. But there are ways that you can actually pay no capital gains tax on those things, especially if you just do investing and you live off of that investment income. It depends on what that looks like for you, but I seriously doubt you're going to fall into that bracket. So, but one of the things to consider is that if you do invest in like traditional or solo IRAs, retirement accounts, later on you get into your life and you start taking that money out of those investment accounts and you're going to be taxed ordinary income tax rates. And so the thing I also like about these non-qualified investment accounts, and so that's really just the government's term of, what is tax advantaged and what's not. non-qualified investment accounts, when you go to sell those, your capital gains may be 15 to 20%. Ordinary income tax rates, especially for high earners, are oftentimes around 30 to 40%. And so if you're willing to take that risk and leverage that, you can invest money today and then sell it off in 20, 30 years from now and be taxed capital gains tax rates instead of ordinary income tax rates, and you're going to pay less in tax. So just some things to consider there, like how do you want to leverage your money? Some notes that I made on here for tax optimization strategies are, tax efficient assets like municipal bonds. You can actually make some income off of these and not be taxed on that income that you make. But I will say that these are not going to be your highest performing investments. They're going to be able to make you some money, but it's not going to be like, you don't hear anybody striking it rich on municipal bonds. Okay. You can utilize tax loss harvesting if you want to potentially offset gains. I'm not a huge fan of that theory, because if you lost money on selling something to offset the gain on something else, you still lost money. So it wasn't a great idea in the first place. And so just some things to consider with that. If that is going to be something that you take into advantage of. A lot of financial planners will do this, but I want you to actually think through that. It's like spending $80,000 to save $20,000 in taxes. If you just did that to spend money to save money on taxes, you still spent $60,000 versus spending $80,000 on an asset that's going to generate you more than $60,000 in profit. You made money on that and you saved money in taxes. So understanding that going into these things, very important. So one of the last things, two things on here that you can implement today, paying your kids and setting up their wealth. This is something I talked to a lot of people about this at the end of 2024. But I want you to start doing this now, because you kind of have a timeline where, I usually like to look at, if it's been more than 60 days, we can't pay them for work that they did 90 days ago. It's going to look, it wouldn't look solid in the event of an audit. Now, our clients haven't been audited. I don't want to say that they'll never be audited. Everybody runs that risk, but audit chances aren't as high as people think that they are. But, there's some things that I will communicate. I'm willing to be aggressive on, but you got to have some standards, right? So you don't want to get to December of this year and then you're going to pay your kids for work that they did January and February. You didn't have any records and you're trying to scramble at the last minute to get this. So set this process up now, get a contract with them, get a job description, get the contract. We have a training on this in Progress University. Very simple to set up, but there are steps to set it up the proper way to make sure you can actually take the tax advantage for it. Now for 2025, you can pay your kids up to $15,000 each, as long as it's justified. You got to think about, if I hired somebody that was not my kid to do this job, would I pay them this amount? Right. So it can't be, you can't be paying them $20 an hour for something that realistically is only worth $13 an hour in the market. Right. It's got to make sense. But if you can have them work up to where it's worth $15,000 for 2025, by all means, please do it, because you can pay them $15,000 out of your business. Again, watch the training on this to make sure you do it the right way. Doing it the wrong way can actually mean that you need to put them on payroll and pay payroll taxes on them, and you should not have to do that. So you can pay them $15,000 max for this year, and they will not have to file a federal income tax return. You can deduct $15,000 from your business as an expense. And what I love about this too, you can set your kids up to start building wealth right now. Set them up a Roth IRA. This is common in so many places. Set them up a custodial Roth IRA and take 7,000 of that 15,000 and put it in that Roth. They can have the difference if you want to let them, but they're going to invest that money. One of the things I love about Grant Cardone's method is that he pays his kids, I think he pays them about $30,000 a year right now, and they have to invest all of that. They live off the cash flow from their investments. And so I think the video I recently saw said that his kids are making about a little over $600 a month off of their investments. That's what they live off of. If they want more money than that, they have to borrow it from him, or they have to come talk to him about it. They are not able to use that $30,000 they make because they're investing that. And so if you're going to pay your kiddo that $15,000 for this year, then I love that thought process. And they may not appreciate it so much now, but they will be so grateful for you later. And so consider going ahead and getting that set up now. Again, if you have specific questions about this, drop that in Progress University. We can help with setting these things up. But a lot of times you can simply set up a custodial account for them. If you have a financial planner, you don't feel confident about doing this yourself, you can have them set it up. But it's actually very simple, y'all, to set these things up. You just got to figure out, who do I want to invest my money with? And the good thing about it is that if you set up a Roth IRA with one custodian, and when I say custodian, I mean somebody like Charles Schwab, and I'll just use them as an example. If you're using somebody like that and you don't like that company, you can roll that over to a Roth with another custodian at any point in time. The custodian doesn't matter. They're just going to be that intermediary for that. So don't make this harder than it needs to be, but go ahead and start doing that now, because it's easier to pay them out in chunks over the rest of 2025 rather than trying to pay them $15,000 at the end of the year and you don't have the cash flow for it. So, and like I said, that's $15,000 out of your business. If your tax rate is 20%, and you pay them, you're going to save $3,000 in taxes, and you're helping them to build wealth, and you're teaching them financial stewardship. It has so many wins to it. And one of the things I want to note is that a lot of people will tell you this, but they don't tell you about state income taxes. It depends on the state that you live in. So when I say you can pay up to $15,000 in 2025 without incurring federal income taxes, your state may vary. If you live in states like Texas, Florida, I believe New Hampshire, where there is no income tax, Nevada, then you're not going to have to worry about it. But if you live in states like Kentucky or California, then your kid may likely need to file a state income tax return. And that can still be okay if in the big scheme of things, you still have a net tax savings for that and you're helping them to build wealth. So don't let that deter you. Just be aware of it. So the next thing is that we are on our boardroom call right now for Progress University. And, you know, we want to, especially if you have an S corporation, if you have a C corporation, you are supposed to actually hold board meetings for that organization. Now, the reason that we encourage people to do this anyways is, one, we want you to be intentional and proactive about the growth of your business. So outside of the tax planning strategies around what I'm about to share with you, it's just good business practice to, at a minimum, monthly have meetings about your business. And so this is something that I do this on a weekly basis. I don't wait monthly, but I want people to be able to leverage the Augusta rule for their business. And so you likely have a business where, especially if you're running a brick and mortar, if you have a vacation home, you can definitely utilize this. You've heard of the Augusta rule. We have a training on this in Progress University as well, where we show you exactly how to set this up, the documentation that you need to put that in place. And then you can actually rent your home out to your business and leverage this Augusta rule. And what this allows you to do is, I will say there can be caveats to this, but on a high level overview, you want to make sure how to implement this for your personal circumstances so that you don't trigger taxes. You want to have a rental agreement between you and your business. You could rent your home out to your business for 14 days or less per year and pay a rental rate from your business to yourself personally. You're not going to pay taxes on that income that you got personally from your business. So if you pay from your business, maybe it's $600 is the day rental rate to rent your home to your business, you're going to be able to deduct that $600 as a rent expense on your profit and loss, which means that you're going to lower your taxable income that flows through to you. But on the personal side, you don't have to recognize that $600 as rental income. So it's tax-free income to you on the personal side of things. And so you want to make sure you have the proper structures and documentation, because the deduction is in the documentation, right? So doing that now and leveraging simple things. We have these board meetings twice a month. You can leverage that, do that twice a month for 6 months. Now, again, it has to be 14 days or less. Maybe you're just going to account for one of these per month. You're going to do one at your business and you're going to do one at home in your living room. And in your living room, you're going to work with your business partner, or maybe that business partner is your spouse, and you're going to work from your home all day that day. And you're going to work on business planning for the next 30 days, the next 3 months, the next 12 months. and you do that every single month, you document that, you can write that off as a business deduction. And again, you got to determine what the daily rental rate would be. I like to just go to Airbnb, and it's like, what would be for renting out a space in my home, or renting out my home? If I was to go rent somebody else's out in my area, how much would I have to pay? And then also taking into account like the amenities and things like that you're leveraging, is there food that goes along with that? Stuff like that, taking that into account, that can add up to a chunk of change. Don't discount if it's $300 is reasonable for where you live, or if it's $1,200. It may not sound like a lot with 1 month, but that stuff stacks. And so it's just really simple ways to not only save you money in taxes, but to be more proactive with your business. So I want you to be aware of that and take advantage of that strategy right now. If you haven't got that implemented, simply documenting that properly is, again, the deduction, right? So the next thing I wanted to cover with you all before we hop off of here is this reinvestment framework for business growth. And so when you have this really profitable business, what do you start to do with all of this money? So it's a great problem to have, but we don't want it to be worth less tomorrow than it was today. And one of the things to keep in mind is that, just like if you don't ever raise your prices, you effectively lowered them given enough amount of time. And so it's the same thing with your money. If you are not making your money work for you, then you might as well have it working against you. And so some considerations to determine, do I need to reinvest this in certain parts of my business? And if so, where? And if I don't need to focus on any things, can I start distributing this and investing it in something else to build my personal wealth? Because again, your business is a wealth building tool. And so some questions that I would ask, like if you're still really caught up in the day-to-day operations, I would prioritize reinvestment and delegation, whether that is hiring people, if it's automation tools, technology, really focusing on processes and things. And then understanding, if you are hitting bottlenecks, going back to that profitability, what is your net operating profit? What does that ratio look like? Is it where it could be? What is it going to take for us to get there? Do we have staffing gaps? Do we have capacity limits? Do we have sales conversion problems? What do we really need to look at? If you have a cash flow volatility, if you have cash flow issues where, yeah, we're profitable right now, but if something happens, it would absolutely tank us, then maybe you need to focus on stacking up some cash to have a reserve, and then you can feel good about taking money above and beyond that out of your business. Another thing is, are you saving for taxes? Just because you're saving 30% of your profits for taxes doesn't mean you're going to have to use all of that. If you get to the end of the year, you're able to leverage some tax strategies that you didn't realize were available to you, and you end up paying less in taxes than maybe you were prepared for it. You've just got extra money sitting in there. But when you're saving money for taxes, put this in a tax advantage, like a high yield savings account for your taxes, even if you're paying this out every quarter. Now, there are some people that also like to use, if you have whole life insurance and it's got cash built up into it, you can actually use that as a means to make more money on your money for paying your taxes. And I'd be happy to share more about that with you on another episode, another meeting, but I'm not going to do that today. But did want to share that if you do have, that's another great tax effective vehicle, in that you can actually stack up. And if you've ever heard of infinite banking, it's not for everybody, but if that is something that you're interested in, it is a great way to be able to have life insurance and store up cash value in a policy that you're not going to be taxed on if you want to take that money out of there. So I do like those a lot. I've got a great connection for helping set that up if that's something that you're interested in as well. Some other considerations for where to allocate this money once you started to grow it is, take advantage of the very simple tax stuff that's going to help you today. The Augusta rule, paying your kids, the HSA if you can, the Roth if you can, those things like that. But in terms of your business, I like to focus on get your business to at least $1 million, and then you can start to diversify, because a lot of people are like, I got to diversify, and they are just starting out, or they really need to get their business more profitable in the first place. You can't afford to have more distractions. You need to focus. So get your business to $1 million. Once you got your business to $1 million, that's just like a very rough framework of like you have something that is proven that it works, that you can get results consistently. Once you can do that, then you're at $1 million in sales in your business. Then, depending on your circumstances, I might look at starting to diversify. Diversification might be investing a lot of money in retirement accounts, investing in real estate outside of your business, buying another business, expanding your business to offer another division. Maybe you have a med spa that just does aesthetics and you want to expand into wellness. Wait till you get to $1 million first. Do one thing really, really well, then you can afford to let your attention go to other things. And so after that, once you've done that, looking at where is this one of the other things that comes to mind is, would it compromise your ability to grow your business or sustain your business if you didn't keep this money in? And so the goal is that, we really want to help people to focus on building a business that doesn't require them, because a business that can operate without you, as long as you keep tabs on your KPIs and your money, then that's going to be a profitable business. And so it doesn't mean that you don't work in your business. You just work in the places that you want to because you want to. But we're focused on building that profitability. And so if you can do that, then you might start looking at outside of your business. Do you want real estate? One of the things I love about this consideration is that a lot of people have this like 1 or 2 places that they absolutely love to visit, and you can buy real estate in those places you love to visit. Let it be Airbnb'd out the other times of the year that you don't want to use it. If you're only going to use it maybe 4 weeks of the year, and you know that you're going to go down there, make some money off of that opportunity. I love to recycling opportunities. It was like, when we had a client that she made a big leap of faith in her business, she re-upped her contract with us, and it was money that she hadn't spent before. And I was so proud of her. And we went up to go see her in person, and I recycled that opportunity by making an event that other people could benefit off of. So I was able to turn that into a workshop that other people got a ton of value from, and I still got to go see my client. And so recycling opportunities is something to consider. But just looking at, what are opportunities you can recycle in your business to have 2 streams of income off of one opportunity. And then after that, again, so just looking at also to kind of, can you tell I lost my train of thought there for a second? If you want to go on vacation, or you like work, or you just like to go work remotely from somewhere else, go buy a piece of property in that place. Make sure that it's in an area where there's a good management company there, so you still get the tax benefits of that investment. You have an asset that you can use when you want to use it, and you don't have to pay for all these one-time expenses to travel, because what you're paying yourself to go travel to is yours. So I love it for so many reasons. You're making money off of it in the background. Really, a lot of people actually leverage this, and I love it. So something else to consider is that, just on a very high level overview, assessing what stage of your business are you in to prioritize the way that you use your money for tax purposes, and for building your wealth. So there's 3 kind of phases to look at. There's like the startup, the growth, and then the mature, which is what I would consider like the scalable phase of your business. So if you're in the startup phase, prioritize growth, focus on that one thing, marketing, optimizing your operations, and just being able to get people results and processes around that. And then the growth phase might be just probably focusing more on automations, hiring, systems and process, refining your pricing strategies, and managing costs and cash flow really well. And then the maturity phase might be where you start to diversify those revenue streams. And so when I think about growth, like, I just go back to, you need to know what this number needs to be for your industry. But if you're looking at a business, getting it to $1 million, and you can start to diversify your revenue streams. And I think about divisions when I think about a division, could you split parts of your business up and it could be its own business, but really you just have it joined together under one roof? I look at those as different divisions. And so say we have a construction company that does residential renovations, and then they do commercial renovations. Those really are 2 different businesses under one roof. Okay. So hopefully that helps to just bring some clarity on assessing where you're at in your life. What do you actually want for long term? And then understanding what is it going to take financially to be able to have that lifestyle that you want, and then reverse engineering. And it makes it so much simpler. And this is why it's actually easier to have a profitable business. It's actually easier to plan for your future when you think about the big picture and what you want. And if this is something that's really uncomfortable for you, just flex that muscle. I'm a big picture person. I love looking far into the future and planning and things of that nature. So that is what I am happy to be for. But thinking about that and making sure that if you have a financial planner, for instance, making sure that that's somebody that aligns with your values and they understand what you want rather than just trying to sell you something that they offer without considering who you are, what you ultimately want. And then reverse engineer your tax strategies based off of that, and the tax strategies that are going to help you build wealth and going to cash flow you and going to be tax effective while you're growing your business. And just remembering that, buying businesses is absolutely an opportunity for you to build very tax effective wealth. And I love the thought of buying businesses, especially right now, because, and we've done this. And so I've experienced this. When you're going to buy a business, you absolutely want to know what their numbers are, but oftentimes it's going to be better to buy an existing business than to build one from scratch. And it's a really great accelerate the growth of your business and your opportunity that cash, build that cash flow, and have better tax advantages available to you with that method. So if y'all have any questions, reach out to us in the chat in Progress University, or you have access to our team. Other than that, just get your system set up right now to save your money in taxes so that is the least of your worries. It's set up and it's behind you, and you can rock and roll on what really matters for you for the rest of this year. So otherwise, I hope y'all have a great day. Let's grow.